Hey, it's Yalanda at DryerBuzz and, of course, 27 Answers. And this particular podcast right here kicks off a new week. So get ready because that means it's going to be a little bit of change of series. And this week we want to try and focus on closing some gaps. So we're going to talk from a perspective of being self-employed, but I also want to talk about nonprofits and not-for-profits because it's the summer months. And usually during this time, as a media partner from our blogging days, we work with a number of organizations over the summer that are gearing up for their activities of working with youth, their conferences, their fundraisers, and different things like that. So some of the successes that and tried and true best practices that I'm going to take to those organizations, I also want to share here on the podcast. And let me just let you know the announcement number one is that 27answers.com is officially back up, and I'll backtrack and talk a little bit about that. As you know, over the last 3 years, I had to automate a lot of the processes that I had going on because of going into the caregiver space, coming back, bringing the podcast back, bringing the 27 Answers back, bringing, literally not necessarily bringing it back because everything never went anywhere. But what I had to do over the past 3 years was to automate a lot of the processes and kind of just basically go into the background and let things kind of run themselves. So I could tell you a lot about doing that because when it came time for me to do it, there weren't many places that I could turn to. So I learned a lot over that time, how to not blog every day, but not necessarily lose my place in the marketplace, or to not sell books or to continue to do book signings. I sold books, but to not physically be able to go out and do book signings, but still maintain the brand, the reputation. You know me, I'm more concerned about the reputation than the whole branding thing, but to literally hold my place. And I remember starting out, and I talked about I didn't want to get to this side of things having any regrets. Suffered a lot of FOMO, fear of missing out, because, when you build something and I spent a decade plus, if not 2 decades, building, the platform and really helping to pioneer this thing called blogging and so forth. But to then have to stop at a time when it was finally catching on, it was finally becoming popular, not necessarily just popular, but a business, an industry, becoming really part of the ecosystem, to having to step back into the background and to kind of let everything run itself. But there's so many lessons in that that I want to share over that. So over this week, we're going to talk about some things that may be some gaps that we have going on. Now, over the last week's series, we talked really a lot about calling a thing a thing. We have so many cute names for what it is we do, this or that preneur or creatives. When really we just kind of dialed it back and say, listen, this is we're self-employed, because we really needed to put some onus back on this thing, some responsibility back on this thing, and to help people to understand the cost of it, because I'm just really all about really, truly, sincerely understanding the cost of what we do, because I think when we can operate with our bottom line in the foreground, in the forethought of what we're doing, we don't have to worry about things that happen in hindsight. Hindsight over the last 3 years, I don't know that there was anything that I could have done any better. I think because of the people that I knew, the reputation that I had, I was really able to step back. Can you think about that? Could you step back into the background? Could you stop what you're doing? Could you step away from it and not lose your place in the marketplace? And I remember going to a conference, and I say this over and over. I went to a conference and everybody was, putting out their plan. This is what they wanted to do. And I remember saying, I need to take a year off. How do I take a year off? And everybody in the room was like, what? Who does that? Where do they do that? Especially as an entrepreneur, how do you do that? Well, being disciplined, okay, understanding your responsibilities, having your team or even beyond your team, your support, your passive income, and doing it for the right reason. Those kinds of things work out. So I want to share can't do it right now in this 9-minute podcast, but kicking off the new week, the new series, that's some of the things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what it truly means to be self-employed, okay, an entrepreneur, a business owner, small business firm, growth firm, all of those different things, those dynamics, what they mean when it comes down to the numbers, talking with people each and every day about having their daily goal. I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs, when I talk to them, and of course I'm talking to them about using social media for business, but even in using social media for business, that's a part of your marketing. And I asked them, okay, well, how many people do you need to reach a day? And of that reach, how many do you need to convert? What's your daily sales numbers and things like that? What's your budget? What budget are you trying to meet? And I find that among entrepreneurs, when you go to talking, people feel like that's getting personal. Well, that's not getting personal. That's getting professional. That's the bottom line in your business. And when I end up in circles or networkers, and that's not the conversation that people want to have, or Facebook groups that I get kicked out of when we try to have those conversations, I realize, okay, that's not my circle, because even right now, recording this podcast, and I could, if I ask someone, well, how much did it cost you to listen to this podcast? If you say to me, it's free. How much did it cost for her to do that podcast? Oh, it's free. I'm done. It is not free. Even these 9 minutes. Ask me how much it costs for me to stop for 9 minutes, record a podcast. Then I have to go put a picture on it. I'm talking about the gaps, talking about not understanding these things. I have to go find a photo. I have to then go and create a thumbnail. I have to then go save it, upload it. That's work. That's time. Time is money. And there's too many people out here talking about the gap, the worst gap that is going on right now with those that are self-employed, and especially with the small business owners, is not understanding your costs. Maybe that's what we need to talk about, because even in the nonprofit sector, the first thing you have to understand is what these things cost that we are trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish. You're either out here trying to get freedom of time or freedom of money. You want better choices. Everything costs. And maybe that's what we specifically need to talk about in this series this week. We're going to talk about it from a nonprofit perspective. As I work with these nonprofit organizations over the events that they have coming up this week, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing for them. And then also, as those of us that are self-employed, I don't even want to use any more cute terms anymore, because I really need to get the eyes and the ears on what it is I am sharing. And I'm sharing it for those that are self-employed. If there's any part of your budget, be it 80%, 20%, 100%, if there's a part of your budget that you have to get out there each and every day, get in front of strangers, meet people, create product, manage inventory, and you need to, at the end of the day, earn a living off of that, this is the podcast that you need to listen to and to share. And if you only heard this one, you missed some. So go back in our timeline, scroll back, and you'll catch one, because this we give you an answer of the day. It's called How to Create Buzz. Buzz costs. And right here is where you start to pay. Yeah, I stole that one. All right, guys, listen. I want you guys to get ready for an exciting week. Think about it. Meet me back here tomorrow. Wherever you press play today, meet me back here tomorrow. And we're going to talk about your costs. And how do you get back here? You can go to 27answers.com. Our home of business, our learning platform is back in the foreground. So you can go there and you can catch, I'll be loading some more of these to that page, to our answer platform. And then you can also filter the entire internet. Regardless of the platform that you favor, filter the entire internet with the hashtag 27answers.